Hey, what's up, guys? This is the Imposter to Icon podcast. I am your host, your wingman, Thomas Edwards. And today I would like to welcome a special guest to this episode, a dear friend of mine. And we're going to jump right into it. We're going to dive deep into the realms of human potential. We're going to talk about relationships. We're going to talk about psychology. We're going to talk about self-mastery. And we're going to do it with a truly exceptional guest. I'm thrilled to introduce my boy, my guy, Dr. Ray. Doctor, yes, last name is Doctor. I consider him a powerhouse in the fields of psychology, personal development, and relationship coaching. With over 30 years of experience, Dr. Ray has impacted the lives of thousands of clients, guiding them toward deeper connections, personal breakthroughs, and higher levels of consciousness. Whether it's navigating complex emotions, enhancing your relationships, or stepping into your most authentic self, Dr. Ray has the tools, he has the goods and the insight to help you just do that. He's not just a coach. He's a thought leader. He's a dad, just an amazing man who seamlessly blends science with spirituality, which is not something that is commonly talked about, but offering a holistic approach that is both practical and profound. From hosting transformative workshops to creating a thriving online community, his work is all about empowering you to live a life of fulfillment, purpose, and connection. I'm pumped to have him on. He's, once again, a great dear friend of mine, and I'm excited to be inspired, to be challenged, to be motivated, and I hope you guys get the same thing too. So without further ado, please welcome to the show, my man, Dr. Ray.
Wow, that introduction is a lot better than my ChatGPT bio I sent you.
I love it.
Thank you. Honestly, that was the best I have ever heard in my life. Everyone always reads the script. So yeah, thank you, Thomas.
Oh, you got it, man. I mean, listen, as a professional wingman, I feel like I'm the ultimate hype man. So I would feel like I would do a disservice if I didn't bring it for you, Plus, you're my boy. So
be my wingman.
Love it, man. Well, I know we're going to go into a bunch of different things, but before we get into the things that we love talking about, I want to have people get to know you, the man behind Dr. Ray, the persona, but also Dr. Ray, the individual. And I always like to connect the past, right? And, you're very open about your past and your history and the transformative journey you've made over the years. Take me back to childhood, right? The time where, I think your mom originally from Japan, Okinawa, if I'm not mistaken, right? And your dad, I believe he was a Marine,
yes.
a veteran. Yeah. So, what was it like growing up in that type of household where you had, I love Japanese culture. So, I always think about the influence that has on people's childhoods. And then you also have such a structured kind of perspective coming from your dad. What was that like growing up?
Well, for 1995, you can find that out in my book. Okay. I'm going to give you the fast version. And it's this. My father was in the Marines. He was in the Marines for 30 years. He met my mother in Okinawa during the Vietnam War. He served 3 tours there. He also was in the Korean War and in World War II.
Wow.
And so I do mention about how when he came back from the war, his mind still was at war. So he suffered with PTSD. He definitely had a lot of anger issues. And my mother also was impacted by World War II as well. So I had parents where they both had PTSD. My mother, it was more where she hoarded. Like our house looked like a Costco. So I remember early on, ask myself, or maybe sometimes being embarrassed, why was our house always filled with shit? And she would stock up on things. And then when I went to go visit my uncles and aunts in Okinawa, their houses was the same way. And I discovered people who survived war, oftentimes they're still stocking up supplies. It's like it's a trauma response. But anyway, in that home, I grew up in a very Republican area. My dad was Jewish, my mom's Buddhist. And so I faced I guess you say, a little bit of bullying, being different. And even early on, my health challenges that I had really severe asthma and allergies. When I started to walk, my feet were crooked, just like Forrest Gump. So I had to walk to school with braces on, and I was called crippled, gimp, all these. And from that, I learned to figure out who I am, and meaning that I was forced to recognize that I am different from others, and that maybe the color of my skin, to our religion, to our values. But in that, it's like I either conform, or I keep trying something new that's not authentically me, or I arrive to a place that is who I really am. And that really that was a long journey, such as I went more to the extreme where I remember I was 14 years old, and it was the day right before Christmas vacation. And I showed up with eyeliner on, I had a leather jacket on. It was like kind of like Ziggy Stardust, David Bowie's alter ego. And I showed up that way. I started a punk band, but my new sense of self was almost like shock, but it wasn't really me. And that led to just another journey of just trying to figure it out, to figure out who I am. And one of the reasons why I'm sharing this way, Thomas, because your podcast is called Imposter to Icon. And it's very much that. And it has been an ongoing process for me, even as a best-selling author. The difference is when my book came out in this last April, that it wasn't like I was betting on that, such as this is going to make me the money I need. This is going to make me famous. It was more like, this is an extension of who I already am. This is an extension of the work I've done. And it's just something I'm given to, people out there who maybe are interested in it. But it wasn't where a lot of times when I was younger, trying to achieve something, those accomplishments were more to add on to me, so I would look more valuable, more attractive. But it never worked. It wasn't sustainable because I couldn't just keep faking being this person. I couldn't pretend. So it's a journey, to discover who we are, and it's enjoyable. I'm finally enjoying who I am.
It's a great feeling, right? And for those who are listening, he is the best-selling author of the book All It Takes Is One. Drop your one big hidden belief, master your life. You said so many amazing things, right? The two things that stood out to me was you literally created a persona, right? I don't want to lead, but what I got from that was you almost created a persona to help you figure out who you were, right? Like there was a part of you that was living in one reality that you just did not enjoy, and maybe there was a part of you that thought it was based on who you were. So you decided to create a persona based on the kind of life or the world that you wanted to live in. And it, obviously it led to, realizing that wasn't as authentic to you. And then the second thing you mentioned was, adding the external value, thinking that was going to fill the internal value, right? But so we'll talk about both of those things. Let's talk about the persona first, right? Because you did create a character for yourself, and then it ended up leading this amazing, fun life for yourself to, being in a band and going on tour and having all these experiences. Tell us.
Well, when I turned into, say, the punk rocker, that archetype, that didn't come with just how I looked. That came with even being a cool dude, mysterious dude, to intelligent dude. I was attracted to the guys who were smart. But prior to that, I was the star running back for our football team, and I had broken my ankle and in other parts of my right leg to where I couldn't play anymore. So I write about this in my book. I was in crutches for almost 3 months, and I went into depression. And a teacher named Miss Jenkins, who did not like me and I did not like her, she just got in my face one day and she said, "You know what? Stop feeling sorry for yourself." you know, and I did. And so I shifted and I became kind of like this rock star person or whatever you want to call it. But you can ask more about that, but I'll tell you something really fucking funny, Thomas, because when I became, that led to also, I have several broken bones in my body. I mean, you see this, I have this collarbone sticking out here. I mean, that happened stage diving at a Sex Pistols concert. I've fractured toes jumping off a balcony at an Iron Maiden concert. So I've lived my life as a really wild person in a way. Not a dickhead, you know, like not being an asshole to women, but just more like I like that persona of like really living my life. And that led to injuries and making poor choices. Probably most of those choices I was drunk. So anyway, when I became a father and I started to become more mellow, there was this part of me going, oh my God, I don't want to become a minivan dad, to I can't do that. That's not Ray Doctor. To there was then the ego stepped in, like, and it was challenging me then. And I was already in my 40s, already making money, but it came up like, oh shit, who is this new version of me? Yeah. Who is this version of me who goes out and it's 8 o'clock at night and I'm yawning? Oh, I'm like, oh my God, I'm not sexy anymore, you know? But
yeah, that's a real thing. That's a real thing. The identity shift in the waves that we go through in our lives. Sometimes we have a hard time dealing with it. I know personally, I've shared on this podcast many times how, you know, the identity of becoming a dad made me feel like the identity of being a wingman was dead. And I wasn't ready to let that die. And I clinged on for it for a couple of years, even after my daughter was born, and dropped me into a dark, dark place because of the grieving and the unwillingness to let that go and embrace the merging of all of these identities into one true character, right? And so it's interesting that you mentioned that, right? Because when I get to hang out with you, I can still see those parts of you that was like the rocker, the free spirit, the guy who is inclined to take risks, right? It's a little bit more calculated now because there's more to lose, but still the willingness to do that, right? And then you have the person now who's a little bit more mellow, right? But that also comes with time and with grace, you know. So I want to dig into like kind of the transitions a little bit, right? Because these are very different lives that you've chosen to live. And so what was it like in the process of trying to figure out who you really were while still living this life that you kind of, I don't want to say fabricated because it really did happen based on who you chose to be, but maybe wasn't fully in alignment with who you knew you could be?
I think the actual breakthrough happened through these two experiences. The first one was so first off, I'll share a little bit of the story of how my son Max showed up. So his mother and I hooked up. I was under the impression she was still on a pill. I was misinformed, and she carried my son her full pregnancy without me even knowing. And Max didn't show up in my life until he was 5.5 months old. And now Max is with me full time, and I have a really good relationship with his mother. However, when that happened, I fucking shut down. It was a lot, like holy shit, because I was Dr. Ray and I was playing in an 80s parody band at least 6 times a month. So I was Dr. Ray during the day, and then I put on a wig and have eyeliner on, and it was a fun kind of Vegas 80s band. And I wasn't prepared for all of that. And I shut down. I went to this retreat in Florida. And one of the exercises in there is that you have to repeat certain words such as I am source, I create, I do it. And it's just pretty much more like action words. And when you do that in front of another student, if they don't believe you, they'll tell you they'll keep basically poking at you until it's the authentic you. And what happened in that setting was they kept saying, who is this? I would perform. It was like, hey, I'm Dr. Ray. Like I was selling cars or on Price is Right. So that was the first time I was catching myself, and they were saying, what is that? Who is that person? And this happened with, I worked with 20 students to a point where I felt like I got so frustrated, I got emotional and I released that. And I recognized for a really long time, I was even trying, this character named Dr. Ray was trying to come off as being polished.
Yeah.
So that was a first breakthrough. And that was like 2015, after I already had been doing this work for a really long time.
And that's a big one right there too, man. Like, you know, we talk about overcoming the imposter, right? Well, the imposter is pretty performative when you really think about it, because it's trying to perform in a way that generates a particular outcome it desires, right? Which usually comes from around being accepted, being seen as worthy, being seen as lovable, right? Or being seen as a person of value, particularly with men, right? I don't think men necessarily worry about being lovable more than they worry about being useful or being, you know, valued that way, or being accepted, you know, and so, or being worthy, which that may not be the word that men use typically, but we'll just call it good enough, right? Everyone should kind of.
I want to share the last one because this is really, really important. It's a whole nother level of authenticity. Yeah. And that is, I went to a circling group, and that is where, if you've done that, where one person is in the middle and people share like sentence stems like, when I'm with you, I feel, and they're basically projecting what they feel onto you to, and sometimes they're accurate and sometimes they're off. However, I'm pretty fucking intuitive, and I could feel what people were about to say. And what it was is that they said, one person said that, I feel like you think you're smarter than us, that you're guarded, to you don't want to be vulnerable, things like that. And all those things were kind of true, where what I mean is that those who were trying to elicit response from me, it was more about them. And I can feel that, and I couldn't trust them. I didn't feel like they were being selfless in their expressions. Therefore, meaning that as a coach who has been in front of over 6,000 people, I can sense and feel their projections. And so therefore, I felt uncomfortable to open up more, because their minds were not empty. And it came out to where they admitted it in real time. And I said, I just want to be able to be accepted. I want, I do have an issue with let my guards down, but it's more that you might make it about you. When I've cried before, other people will talk about themselves. Therefore, I've always pushed myself into that leader position for safety, or I've always been the boss. I've always come out as a strong man because of my fear of not being received, or people trying to give me advice that's not, it's not aligned with me, or they make it about them. And it was happening in that circle group, and to a point where, my body started to shake because I was hurt by it, and I started to cry. And it's the first time I've ever cried in front of a group of people. I've never cried. I was never even that guy in college or younger where I got drunk and people put a dick, drawing on my head. I've never passed out either. I've always been somewhat in control. And so it was the first time I let go of the control, even if these people have projections. Like, that's a lot to try to control how others might work out their shit with you.
Absolutely.
And I just let go. And then they all piled up on me to hold me. And they're like, God, you're a bad motherfucker. You're a badass. Like, oh my God. They all started, a lot of them started to cry and release. And after that was a moment I recognized that I don't have to appear to be strong either. I don't have to appear to have all the answers. I don't have to appear to be in control. And that was a whole nother level that relaxed my life.
What did that feel like to just finally let that go?
Well, like on podcasts like this, or interviews and live workshops, there's things that come out of my mouth, or it could appear like a mistake, and I don't give a fuck. It's that. Yeah. I have created a lot more. My book would have never come out if I have not done that process. People ask, how long did it take to write your book? Well, technically, only 9 months. Emotionally, 15 years. Because I maybe didn't feel like I knew enough to, I was trying to control things to, I don't know what it was, but it has led to, honestly, me making more money, being in a relationship I am right now,
Yeah.
Somehow allowing synchronicities to lead me in my life, and pretty much everything that has come in the last 10 years, my life is up leveled so much. I'm just kind of more in flow with spirit, because the more I'm in control, I'm more in third dimensional reality and clinging to earth and worrying, whatever else. But the more my heart is open, I'm vibrating at a higher frequency. Therefore, I'm more connected to the antenna that connects me to a higher power of God. So life has been going really good, including, I'm about to move near you.
Yeah.
It's been nothing but a smooth ride. It's just been like, where am I okay? Is it okay that I let people know where you live, or are you trying to keep that private?
Oh, no, it's fine. People know I live in Asheville.
Okay. So I'm moving from Ashland to Asheville. Yeah. Maybe I got the download. I just messed up on the Ville over like land, but it's another up leveling of my life and my family. I'm very excited about it. And I know it'll work out. I mean, even in Ashland, it had worked out. It allowed me to write my book, but also allowed me to discover things I needed to know to help me on my next journey.
Yeah. Let's talk about that, because you and I shared similarities. Santa Monica, this is where we met, and Santa Monica provided so much for me personally. I mean, I think you're originally from Santa Monica. And then when COVID hit and I went down to Carlsbad, I had a similar experience as I think as you, where it just didn't really feel connected, didn't feel resonant, but it felt necessary at the time. And there were so many things I learned from that experience that I can now look back and say, wow, like coming here to Asheville, I needed to live in Carlsbad in order for Asheville to be possible. Right. Mm-hmm. And so, and we've had plenty of conversations while I was in Carlsbad and you were in Ashland, right? Like, walk us, talk to me about that transition that you're currently going through, because I've already made it. You're in the middle of it now. What were some of the things that came up for you that you now can see as gifts or lessons that you're looking forward to level up when you come here?
Well, first off, I was humbled by admitting I was, like, say, wrong or didn't know about the culture. And what I mean by that is, wherever I go, most of the time, I can make people laugh. I like to have fun, okay? And I meet people very quickly. And so when I was visiting Ashland, as an example, I was getting along with people. People were kind. However, like, you have to really be in a culture to, like, start seeing their shadows. Mm-hmm. And I picked that up really quickly. All of them, including with my son, he was experiencing that as well. So that's one thing I learned, where you just don't really know. But this is a big part. When I did leave California to come here, it was what was necessary for me to get healthier. It was to kind of move into a quieter area, because the population is only 21,000, and to prepare me for my next journey. It also allowed me to meet Nicole, which I would have not met if I had not moved here. And she's the love of my life. And so that's a big fucking thing too. Yeah. So I came here, I meet a woman, I heal some things about my health, including my son. This is the funny thing, I have a garden. Again, this is like, if there's a little bit of a challenge, it's that the maintenance on my garden is a lot. Like, it's on average, it's going to be like, it's like $800 a month. So it's not like the best rental because of that. I learned how much I don't really want a garden like this. Like, it was an idea of, like, having fruit trees, and like, it's like a botanical garden. And I've actually put, like, at least 40% of the installations to make it look this way. But, like, I'm going to leave and it's going to look even more beautiful, but it's a lot of work. So that was a big thing, is being here allowed me to understand the importance of the quality of my life, the things I really have excitement to attend to. And I like to be in a yard, but I don't think I want to be in a yard all the time. And so the last 2.5 years I've been living in Ashland, it has helped me because I've been more of a recluse. And it has helped me kind of really get clarity with the lifestyle I want, to the energy I want to share my energy with. Like in Asheville, I find people there to be like want to create. I feel more fiery, fun, upbeat energy. While here in Ashland, it seems like they're more in the healing space, that more feminine space, just they're not really putting things into action. But it also gave me the opportunity to be by myself, to kind of go, what do I have the time to do right now? What do I really want to do with my son right now? What do I really want to do with my woman right now? So the quietness has allowed me to kind of see what's most important for me.
Yeah. And, you know, it's interesting because inside of these places, and I'll share like my personal experience in Carlsbad, you know, there was a little bit of imposter syndrome when I look back, right? You know, the imposter was in me was like a feeling of belonging, right? Do I belong here? Can I actually build community here, right? Mm-hmm. And both it was very difficult to get to a yes to either of those questions. Mm-hmm. I remember leaving Carlsbad and only ended up with like one real close friend. Really close friend. And Sean, if you're listening, I'm talking about you. Right? But like I had one really close friend, which, you know me, as someone like me, like I'm very outgoing. I typically, my social life is pretty busy, even as a dad. And I didn't have any of that. And like you, it gave me an opportunity to really spend time with myself and spend time with my family and realize, okay, there's a way for me to show up as a dad, as a husband, as a business person, and also figure out like who really are my people. And one of the biggest lessons I learned, and this helped me overcome my quote unquote imposter there that I brought here, was I don't need a lot of friends. I just need a small amount of incredible friends. And if I have that, I'm good, right? Yeah. And I have that. Without a doubt. Doesn't mean I'm not open to meeting new people. Doesn't mean that I'm done finding friends, right? I think statistics or studies have shown that, you actually end up meeting a lot more of your lifetime friends later in life than you do at the beginning. It's not as frequent that you meet, your friends early on in life. So I'm looking forward to what that might actually look like for me. But that was the big thing that I was able to overcome, and it's created such a lightness, for me, such a powerful lesson. And this actually, the reason I bring this up is it goes to the second thing that you had talked about earlier when you were sharing your story, was about thinking that external value is going to fill yourself internally, right? And anyone who's listening to this or watching this in the replay knows that we can be susceptible to that. Thinking that there's something out there that's going to fill the gap in there, whether it's the promotion, whether it's the relationship, whether it's the body, looking aesthetically pleasing. What's been your experience, and what have you learned through the process of acquiring such external value over time through your various stages and your various characters, and where you are now?
Well, first off, when you talked about, I'll answer that question, but I wanted to add to what you shared about what's important, like having incredible friends. And I think you are an incredible friend and brother. And I thought by just keeping in touch with people, like our audio recordings or through FaceTime, that could be enough I didn't know the importance of camaraderie. So one thing I did in Los Angeles was be with 3 guys, my bandmates, like 3 times a month. And I had no idea the importance of that. So what it was is I was kind of blind to that because I was Dr. Ray. I was seeing clients. So there was that interaction there. I was doing workshops. So there's interaction there. I had my son. And then I was seeing a set of men. So I didn't see it that way back then. I just thought it was my band. I made money. We had fun. But oh my God, we had such fun. And that's when I realized, like, whoa, no wonder why when my band broke up, I was like, what am I, what's going on with me? Because I can start to understand, but I came here and where I'm at right now, and I'm not going to get into like why it has been more challenging, but I recognize the support, the things that did work in LA that I no longer had here. So that helped me as well understand like the importance of having that connection with people I really like and be able to check in with those people. So that's really, really important. But now back to that question you asked, is that where I'm at currently in my life, like if I were not to move to Asheville and I were to look at this purely on paper, here I have this really nice home. It's actually paid off. So I already got hit with taxes and everything. All right. I have a girlfriend who we're 2.5 years into it. Things are going well. She has a son closer to my son's age. We all hang out. When I moved up here, my son's mom, I bought another home and I moved her up here. She is only 1.5 miles away. So I get that support, where I have him most of the time, but every other weekend he goes and is with his mother. And I can keep going on with like things that we say is perfect on paper, perfect. Like I achieved the things that I'm supposed to when I was a teenager. So now I'm this 55-year-old dude, father, whatever you want to call me. And I check the boxes. And still today, I'm like, this is not enough. My consciousness is I have forever unfolding consciousness. I need more things I need to create. And that's something I learned too, because a lot of times, I know more, maybe it's both men and women. I don't know, but I've heard it's more from men trying to get their ducks in place. There's this strategy or things they need to accomplish to get the happiness, to get the woman. And so I guess unconsciously, I've been kind of part of that narrative. And so once I achieved that and I arrived, I learned that, oh my God, like, oh, look, I'm still not satisfied with life. The creator, okay. So that's one thing I really learned as well. So if I'm going to be forever a creator, then I want to be in a place who wants to play with me. That's a big part of this move, Thomas, is I want to play. I want to play. And I don't get that. It's like here, if like people here I feel are very serious. So when you share sarcasm or a joke, it's like in a tennis ball, and it's like the tennis ball goes dun, dun, dun. It's not hit back, or a person says, I have this great idea, blah blah blah, and I'm like, hey, okay, have a meeting, put it in a container, and let's see what we can do. It's like you hit the tennis ball, so it's just that I'm like, no, I need to create. So that's a big reason why I'm leaving, and I'm okay with that. There's people here, they don't play the way I want to play.
Yeah, and you never know what happens until you move, right? Like that was similar to me for me in Carlsbad. Carlsbad is a great city outside of San Diego, like beautiful and amazing, and the people there are actually pretty awesome. But that's irrelevant if you don't feel a sense of alignment there, right? Yeah. It makes it very challenging. And, once again, kind of talking about the imposter, right? Like there's a delicate balance, because I think as men, we've been kind of raised, and I think part of our divine path is to create and build, right? And to innovate. And however, there is an added pressure that is put on us to feel like if we don't build, if we don't create, if we don't innovate, that our life has no meaning. And until we are able to do that and check off these boxes, then we will hold value in the world. Then we will be happy and feel fulfilled. And that's just not true, right? Like we've seen from personal experience, and studies now show, it doesn't matter what you set as a goal for yourself. The moment you accomplish that goal, you lose that sense of happiness, and your mind immediately goes to a homeostatic state and tries to create a new vision, a new goal to give itself the drive to keep moving forward through life, which in some ways can be used as a skill, as a gift. But if not managed, your imposter can come in and make you feel like your entire life is built on that pattern, right? And so for you, what was the journey to kind of shift yourself out of that?
Well, I want to add something we just said because it was really interesting. So you mentioned that men will measure themselves by their accomplishments, or they'll believe that now they have the Mercedes, that more women will want to go on dates with them. Okay.
Absolutely.
However, if a man does not have a map, or the map that he's using doesn't work, he might not feel like he can even do anything to, say, attract a woman, get the job, and other things. And at this moment, I'm seeing a lot of men fall into complacency because they're recognizing that the ideology from the baby boomers is outdated, to the idea to go to college and that you're going to get a job it's like old news. It's not really happening. So the things that were, I guess, supporting me in my trajectory, even if it was unconscious and either fear driven or not sustainable, at least I had kind of like this feedback loop, or at least this idea that I'm doing this for some purpose. And I recognize that if, like, for example, if a man's thinking, oh, I'm never going to get married, so why do I need to get in shape? Or I'm never going to get social respect, so why should I work on myself or put videos out there? Then they just kind of just feel sorry for themselves and nothing happens. And so I would say that's like the opposite of like, what we're talking about. Whereas what you're talking about, like the reason why I'm bringing it up is because we all need to create that path for ourselves. We all need to step into the archetypal, if it's men here, listen to this, archetypal men that we maybe admire, such as my heroes were like Indiana Jones, as an example, because he was smart, he was in good shape, he had adventures, and he seemed to get the woman. Okay. So, I wanted that, like, a lot of teenage boys wanted. So, not that I have to become that, but that's like, for me, was somewhat a goal. What I recognized for myself as far as what with that split was this. It was that, for example, I put out an album in early 2000s and it was on 5 different radio stations. This was another accomplishment I had done. There are many different lives I've lived, and every one of them I was unsatisfied. In fact, unhappy, fucking miserable. It was like the way I handled it because it didn't yield to what I thought I was going to get.
Yeah.
So I think it was more that I recognized what it meant by, like, it's not about, the destination, but the journey. It was really that. And in time, life beat me up. In time, I recognized that I'm going to have to enjoy this anyway. Even the move to Asheville, sure, it may be something I'll discover there I don't like, but I'm not approaching the move as if it's going to save my life or that it's going to 100% make things better. What I know is this, is that no matter what has happened to me in my life, particularly the last 10 years, has been fucking fantastic. So I just think it's just going to be an extension of that. That's it. So the real shift is that recognizing that I have achieved a lot more by being in a pause and in my heart. Like, even, this because you're a part of this conversation a little bit. When my book came out, the idea was I was going to be taking people through a container where they can kind of go through the book, but also see real-time coaching. Well, I got hit with the worst sinus infection. I don't know if it was COVID. I don't know, but like, I was usually, when I get sick, it takes like max 10 days to get over. It lingered. I couldn't do this. I couldn't. But I let go of it. I'm like, I'll get to it later. I'll get to it later. I went on more trips this summer. I had the best summer ever with Max, my son. I had Thomas. It was the most relaxed I have been in 10 years since becoming a father. So It was like the idea was this. Okay, I accomplished the book. The universe was really wanted me to rest. and I received it. I received it, and I didn't miss, making more money. I didn't miss anything. If anything, I was able to really reap the rewards from my efforts. This summer.
I love it. And we did talk about that, right? Is kind of, we have these expectations of what we want to do and what we think is going to happen. And obviously God laughs at that and says, here's the real path. Here's the real path you're going to go through. And hopefully you can learn that. Guys, I'm here with Dr. Ray, a coach, a friend, best-selling author of All It Takes Is One. We're here talking about how to overcome ourselves and embracing the stages that we go through to get closer to, I think, where we're going in this conversation, which is our purpose, right? The journey. And I think through the purpose is where we get to unlock what I believe is our unlimited potential. And what you were just talking about before is, we need direction. I think, especially as men, we need direction. Let me be clear. Goals are super important because it provides direction, right? You cannot use Google or Apple Maps without a destination. You have to have something there. And you also need to know where you're at. And you also need to know what is going to be, how you're going to get there, right? What's going to be the medium that you're going to get there? You're going to get there by train, by plane, by automobile, by boat. Are you walking, right? But what you said is so important, which is it's not necessarily about getting to the destination. It's about the journey and who you become when you arrive at that destination, And you said yourself, multiple lives. And it's such a great way to describe it, because I think it's oftentimes as men, we look for this one thing, right? We look for this one thing that defines our lives, and we have to really focus on trying to find that and pursue that. And we forget that, like, in life, we've been gifted. I mean, millions of years ago, the life expectancy was less than 20. And now we have people who, I just actually saw the oldest living person right now on record is 112 years old. And so we have, based on potentially the highest level of expectations, we have a lot of life to live. And I'm a huge fan, like you said, like I told you, of Japanese culture. And they always talk about this idea of ikigai, right? Which is reason for living. And I've learned that you can have multiple reasons for living, right? And you can live in that. You can live in those stages, And so I want people to hear that, if you feel like you don't know where you're supposed to go in life, or you're not sure of what your ultimate purpose is, can you share, in a way, if you were to reflect, your ikigai in the stages of life that we've talked about on this podcast, from your childhood to that rock star time to becoming a dad time, and now being where you are right now?
Absolutely. I'm going to share something I heard from my friend Bo, and I asked him to send me the article, and he's trying to find it. But this is not well, this could become a little political, but it doesn't matter. But
it's fine.
He said that he said that you realize that there are a lot of Gen Zs who are eaten up, like what we consider now conservative values. They're just eating it up. Yeah. And he said it is because there's some map and that there's some structure to it. And I'm not talking about like the extreme dogmatic Christian stuff in which, like, it's just anti this or judgmental or whatever. He's just talking about more of just certain strong work ethics. And he said that they're not showing us stuff on mainstream media. And he said, and I did a little bit of a research on that, and they're doing a lot better than those who say are more free spirited or like trying to say fuck it to all. Yeah. They're kind of like however anyone wants to receive this, it is what it is. But what I'm trying to say here is that also by raising boys, and even how my father raised me, is that there was some map. There was some map to some goal.
And if we don't have that, we get lost, you know? And so I just want to share that. It's kind of strange, but a lot of people don't know that. Like, there's a lot to say about having a little bit of structure. And
well, it's true.
Being a parent, I see the kids who stay up late, 11 p.m. to they eat different strange times, to inconsistency with the parents, to it's just highly like the parents are emotional, or it's like where there's just no direction in the family. Those kids are a mess. And when I say a mess, tantrums, crying, they're insecure. And in some of those families, when they like saw a specialist and said, get on the schedule, make sure your child goes to bed at a certain time, everything changes, everything shifts. The children thrive off of these containers, no differently than if you're in a playground with your child. Sure, as they get older, they'll run, and if it's a boy, it's like, fuck you, you can't get me. But if you just walked away or you didn't pay attention, they'll maybe cry or come back towards you. But what it is that they just want your presence there. The playground is kind of like, like the feminine the feminine is in there to play, and the masculine is the container. It's the walls. It's the men and women in there holding that container, so beauty can shine, and play. And so I that's why I really love structure. It helps me wake up. So I wanted to add that to that.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you answer the question soon, but I want to respond to that because that's so good. I mean, and maybe this might be what you're referencing, but there are now stats and studies that are showing that younger men are leaning more conservative.
Yes.
In terms of just their value system. We're not talking political. This is just in terms of their value system. And women are leaning more, liberal. Younger women are kind of leaning more towards, liberal and free-spirited value system, right? And so we're seeing that happen. And I think you're 100% right. And for those who maybe heard that and got triggered because of maybe your parenting style, this does not just apply to you and kids and parenting. This applies to you as an adult. So I would suggest you to take a look and listen to what Dr. Ray said and ask yourself, don't think about your kids for a moment. Ask yourself, how structured is your lifestyle? Are you taking care of yourself in a way that can create consistency in your life? Because that is what I consider the iconic path that your kids are going to follow. Yeah. And so you're not, having, and I'm not saying you need to be like, like you're running a prison. Like that's not at all what we're talking about. But there is an importance to having structure, right? When we have, it's almost like the 9-dot test, right? Like, those 9 dots represent the structure or the objective of what is required for you to complete that 9-dot test. And that's the masculine, and the feminine creates the results, which is you can actually draw past the dots themselves to be able to use one line to draw through each of those 9 dots, right? This is what we're talking about. And so the two have to work together. And if there's one that's missing, then chances are the other one is going to be unmanaged and get to a point of being out of control, which is where the emotions start to become unmanageable. The tantrums or the emotional outbursts can exist. Adults can have and do have tantrums as well. And so just check in with that, because that I know for sure, for some of you who might be listening to this, that was a little triggering, and that's a great opportunity for you to check in with yourself. Put the kids aside, check in with yourself and see if that's how you've been showing up. But let's go back to that question, right? Going back to purpose.
Most people, when they think of purpose, they think of an actual job, such as or volunteering at a homeless shelter. In fact, I thought that as well. That's why a lot of times people get lost, because it's not that. One of the questions I ask men, particularly men, is, why do you exist? And oftentimes it's, well, to be a dad, or to help. It might be to help people in the service I offer. But I'll ask, well, what if that were to cease? You couldn't volunteer or you couldn't work at your job. Then who are you then? Then the question is like, they get sometimes afraid, like, I don't know. I don't know. So for me, purpose is yourself. And what I mean by that is, let's just say in this moment, I'm creative, I feel excited, and I'm going to move to Asheville. And the idea is that I'm going to create a men's group. All right. And sure, I would like to see men. Maybe I can make money also from that. I can generate that as well, but it can fulfill different areas of my life so I can keep the men's group going. Okay. Now, what if I were to be in that process and then I got men were not interested, or let's just say they were not aligned, or it just wasn't going to work out? I'm going to have to think about that. All that I did, meaning that I'm going to think about my actions, I'm going to get into my emotions and who I become and how I examine my emotions and how I develop more self-awareness is the purpose. And what I mean by that is, you might have a parenting role, you might have a job description, but having the idea that you're learning in each moment and it's an opportunity for you to grow and to reflect, because that action is not going to sustain you. Nothing will really sustain you. Well, the only thing that there's nothing really sustainable, because it's just dots connected to other dots or moments connected to other moments. So the best you can do is love yourself in each moment. So I feel I am my own purpose. I am my own journey. I am the experiencer. Okay. Now, when I was younger, I wanted to be a rock star. And that had to do with more because I come from a family of musicians. I thought I liked the rock style lifestyle. I just thought it'd be cool. And again, like, I'm going to be honest, like, you can get chicks, that was a motivator for me. Okay. So
the driving force for almost most things men do, right?
Yeah. So,
yeah.
So I guess you say purpose for me was fulfill my desires and needs. That was my first purpose, but it was, to me, it's very primal. And it's okay to still be attracted to women and have desires. But again, it was just solely that. And so that's why men who say go out to clubs and they don't get a number and nothing happens, and they're solely driven by that outcome, they get bummed out. They don't have a good experience. Like, you've met my buddy, Eric. He did an interview with you as well. Yeah. He's an amazing wingman. And he would always say have women around him. And when we would meet at a bar or he would go see my band play, we didn't go there thinking like, let's see what's going to happen. Everything was happening now in that moment, our conversation, to where we would just be dancing by ourselves and girls would come to us, to where we would talk to other guys who had other women hanging out with them. Those girls would start to talk to us. You know how this works as a wingman. Yeah. So we would always have a good experience because we showed up to have a good experience. The purpose was just having a good experience. That's a big difference with trying to get something to fulfill you. And when you don't, you're bummed out. And so again, back to that primal desire as being my purpose. Then I graduated to, the next level. I became Dr. Ray. And the thought was that, I'm here to become the next Tony Robbins. I'm here to save the planet and give my gifts and so forth. And so, I remember comparing myself to other, coaches or other people who are now influencers and have more likes and blah, blah, blah. And I remember not feeling good because I was comparing myself. And from that, I recognized, I can't compete with algorithms. I can't, great, they're doing well, but that's not me. And I also know that making more money or having more people like you or anything else like that doesn't really make me happy. So, and through that experience, I recognized, if I'm going to express myself, if I'm going to be this person called Dr. Ray, then I want to do it because it excites me. I feel I experience fun in my body. And so everything I do now comes from that space. And that's me. I exist to just be and be in my heart. I exist to be part of creation and to contribute. I am in service, and that's it, no matter what. So if I were making money or not, whether it's by the way, this week I did a podcast where it was, I guess you say it was a little bit like coaching. The interviewers were going deep. They were experiencing depression. There was a moment I thought, these men are deep in this, and there was a part of me, my ego went to, well, I wanted to be maybe a little more professional, but then there's a moment I went like, this is great that these men are being open to me.
Yeah.
And it guided me to like that space and really enjoying it. And remember who I am and just that this is what I signed up for.
Yeah.
So, I guess I hope that answers your question.
It does. It does. I mean, I think the essence that, and just to even paraphrase, and correct me if I'm wrong, right? Like what you're talking about is we, talk a lot about spirituality. Maybe we'll talk about that in another episode and how that connects to all of this. But, it seems very in alignment to how I feel, which is, our purpose is to exist. Like what you're saying is your purpose is to exist, right? And the layer underneath that is you're choosing to enjoy your existence, right?
Yes.
You're choosing to have fun and play inside of your existence, right? And that is your meaning. You're choosing to define that meaning of your existence through joy and play and having fun, right? And obviously being of service, among other things. And I think that is so important because when you are clear on that, there is no imposter. And when I mean imposter, I mean there's a part of you that's trying to be something that it knows it's not supposed to be, right? And that's the thing that always gets in the way and sabotages our life. Yeah. There's no imposter that you can't overcome when you are clear in the meaning of your existence. If you just knew your purpose in life was to exist, and you chose to define that in your own way, knowing who you are, and in this chapter of your life, doesn't mean forever, right? But in this chapter of your life, there's no imposter you can't overcome. And I think that's like the big message that I appreciate you sharing, because we all have these different phases and these different iterations that we go through in our lives. And we think it all needs to connect. It all needs to mean something. And there's some ways that's true. It's important to carry the wisdom to create a better future by understanding the bad experience we had that got us the wisdom to begin with. And so it's really important for us to have these stages of life that we go through. And at the same time, we still get to determine the meaning of our existence in our own way. No one gets to tell us that. And when we can come to that level of alignment and acceptance of that, and we embrace it, like the way that you expressed it, we can live a life without limits. Mm-hmm. That unlimited potential that we talk about gets to be fulfilled and lived day in and day out.
Yeah, I live in my own parody. And what I mean by that is I don't really take myself that seriously. And I'll give you two examples. And I think this can help men a lot, because men will pretend to be someone they're not just to get laid. And it eventually, and if they do, end up having sex with this woman and she's a little bit more intuitive, it's going to break down that fakeness. You just can't keep pretending to be someone else. So in this small town, like people will walk up to me, and it stopped, but they would say, "I've seen you on Facebook," and they'll say, "You're Dr. Ray," and they'll treat me like I'm a rock star. It's interesting to see that. And I'm with Nicole, and she has experienced that as well. Being a small town, we might appear as being like a big fish in a small town. But I see that where they're talking to me in a way in which they think I am. So notice that's an example where that I don't say anything, but like, what if I were to think that's who I am? And I try to pretend to be this whatever rock star person. That's not who I am. Another experience is, I think I shared this with you. So in my 80s parody band, when I had the wig on and I had the eyeliner on and we do funny dance moves and stuff, and of course I'm the lead singer, I would get all this attention from men and women, but particularly from women. Women would like look at me, look in my face, and blah blah blah. In the moment I took off my wig, and I had to pick up the equipment, I would walk by these women, and they didn't recognize me, as if like this whatever how they were engaging with this guy acting like a rock star or whatever. It was just the perception in that moment. It was that excitement. But the moment I would take off my wig, the moment my band would be in regular street clothes, it was like the audience didn't give a shit who we were.
Yeah.
And we would laugh about that. We would talk about that. But one time we had a guitar player who thought like it was all about him. He's like, and my bass player, Bob, was just straight out. He's like, Jim, they don't give a fuck about you. You're a middle-aged man. I mean, come on, dude. What they like is, and he said the stage name. His name was Bob Simmons, his stage name. Bob was also older. He goes, they don't fucking give a shit about me. They like Bob Simmons. Yeah. And it was true. He recognized that it wasn't like who he was, like who he really was. You know what I mean? And so I had that experience too. I went, wow, like people project these stories onto people, even in this bar, And so when some people are trying to be something they're not, like they might try to act like a rock star so they can get the woman or whatever. But the easiest relationship and the easiest life is a person who can lean into any conversation that's uncomfortable. They can lean into conflict. In all the relationships that they have, people treat them as they are. They accept them as they are. Like when I hear people talk about, oh my God, that's going to bother him or her, I can't say that. I'm like, wow, I don't even know what that feels like. Like, even with you, like, I think I brought something up. I said, I go, how do you feel? I'm not going to bring it up here. You said, dude, don't even worry about it.
Yeah.
And it went well. So it's like, I'm here to express. And if I trigger people, it's not my business.
Yeah.
Unless I'm like a dick, I mean, yes.
Right. Like, unless you're hurtful, right? If you're hurtful, of course, right? And there's a clear difference, right? And I think that's what's important, right? Is we as humans should be willing to hold space for diversity of ideas. And we should take responsibility for how we choose to react or respond to those ideas. And if you came to me and opened up about something that was important to you, and perhaps you wanted to see the best in me, and you talked to me or gave me feedback or just shared something that was important to you, and I reacted in a way that didn't allow me to receive it, what are the odds that you're going to actually share something like that with me again? Yeah. Probably little to zero. Right. And we're just talking as men. Right. And I would imagine two grounded men. Right. Now, imagine if there's two ungrounded men having that type of conversations. Right. It could be a lot worse than that. Right. And so this idea, and we're kind of bouncing around here, and we'll get back to the main point. Right. But when you are true to who you are, and this is where I talk about authentic polarization. This is a core value that I live by, and I try to instill its values with my clients that I work with. When you are so authentic and true to who you are, it should create a polarizing response. Yes, it should, because there's going to be people who are going to see it and not be about it, and they might be so triggered that they may reflect or project, as you shared earlier, right? They might project things, and that's on them. And it's your responsibility to choose how you want to take that on. I had a client earlier today who learned the hard way why it's important not to take on other people's projection. But she grew from that, and now it's going to be better for her. And so you have those people who don't like you. And then on the other side, you have people who, dare I say, will be obsessed with you because they are going to love that not only you share similar values, that you don't hide it, that you're vocal about it, and that you stand firm in those values, and you don't allow to be externally influenced by others due to societal pressures. And it's so funny because the clients that we work with, you and I, are looking for that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But at the same time, they worry about the risk of the other thing. Right.
They maybe saw Dave Chappelle keeping it real.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's when it goes wrong.
It goes wrong. Right. But yeah. And so, just to kind of tie this up, I love this conversation, and I want to continue this. I know, but we're out of time here. But when you are clear in the meaning of your existence as it pertains to right now in this stage of your life, and you can live that openly, like I said, there's no imposter you can't overcome, but you end up living in such a way that is attractive to those who you want to attract in your life, and it repels those who you don't want in your life. And that is ultimately what's going to create the type of life that you want to live. And so I really, really appreciate that, man. Before we wrap up, man, I love to just do some quick fire questions. I want to bring the iconic 5, which is 5 questions for our guests. And we're going to do quick fire. And here's the first one. What book are you reading right now? It could be an Audible too, if you want.
The Anxious Generation.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yes.
Nice. Who is a mentor that you haven't met yet?
Wow. I've met a lot of them.
Which is great.
Yeah. Actually, I've loved to pick RFK's brain.
That's a good one. Yeah. RFK is special, man. Love to connect.
Yeah.
What game are you playing right now or enjoying playing?
Pocket pool.
I love it.
Yeah, I don't. That's maybe revealing. I don't really play a lot of games.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, I mean, do you play with Max sometimes?
Yeah.
Okay.
If anything, the game I enjoy with him and Yeshua is just becoming Mr. Falafel, because it's a cross between like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and I don't know, like The Shining, because I put on this boar mask and I look freaky and I play Metallica, and it's pretty funny, dude.
I love it. I gotta see that.
It's hilarious,
man. What advice has been powerful that you've received recently?
I was getting my hair cut this Monday, and my hairdresser, I was talking about Nicole, and when I started talking about it, it was a little bit intense. And she said, gentler Ray, because I could get really fiery. And it wasn't just that day. It's my son as well. And so he has permission to tell me that. So you probably can imagine being raised literally by like a sergeant. You know what I mean? So
intensity there.
Yeah. So I'm working on that, and I love it. I love the feedback because I don't want to hurt people's feelings. Never hurt my son's feelings, but he notices that I can get really intense, and I do sometimes intimidate people with that intensity. And my father, that was his job, but it's like it's in my body, and I just want to soften it.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. And last question. What are you most excited about right now?
Dude, moving to Asheville and hang out with you, man.
That's right, bro. That's right. Yeah. I love it, man. I think Asheville is going to gain what Ashland's losing. Asheville's going to have an ultimate gain, man. It's going to be so great. And I think I look forward to the experiences that we get to have together across all things, you know? Well, I appreciate you, man, so much. Where can people follow you if they want to, learn more about you and get to know you?
The best way to find me is just go to my website, raydoktor.com. However, Thomas has also provided a link that will get you to not just my website, but also a link to my book, to my YouTube channel, and even a coaching experience that I'm going to be doing very shortly. And that was what I was going to do as a follow-up to my book, but it didn't happen in April. It's happening in September.
I love it. Hey, all in good timing, man. All in divine timing. Well, my friend, always a pleasure to connect with you. I look forward to doing more of this with you. And yeah, thanks for coming on the Imposter Icon podcast.
Amazing. Thank you, brother.
Love you, bro.
Love you too.